Hi everyone, welcome back. I am Matt Artz here today with Jennifer Studebaker. Jennifer works at the Kauffman Foundation as a project and business integration specialist and will also be giving a workshop at the upcoming Building Careers in Anthropology Conference that's related to the Readiness Commission that's being held at Fordham. And we'll get into that in just a second, but Jennifer, you want to tell everybody a little bit about, your background, your elevator pitch, whatever it may be, how you came to anthropology, what you're doing today for work?
Yeah, so I was definitely one of those kids that got into anthropology thanks to Indiana Jones, but it was only after I started taking classes in anthropology I realized that Indiana Jones was not where it was at. I also realized I didn't love the idea of digging in the same spot for like over 10 years. So I ended up kind of switching more towards biological anthropology. But when I was in grad school, I kind of started bringing in more of that cultural anthropology. So I kind of identified as a biocultural anthropologist for a while there. But I was really fortunate that I attended Purdue University, and Ryle Nolan was one of my professors there. So I got exposed to the idea of practicing anthropology. And I was aware of like all of the career opportunities for anthropologists and all the unique ways we can apply our skill sets. So I always looked for opportunities to kind of practice or apply my anthropology in whatever work sort of setting I was. So like my first job out of school was at the Society for Ethnomusicology, which is great because you're pretty much surrounded by anthropologists of music to a certain degree. It wasn't actually until I got to my first job here in Kansas City at my sidewalk that I got to feel like I was actually being a practicing anthropologist, though, where I was at work happy hour, and my supervisor at the time kind of complained on like, we don't know who our customer is. And I was like, hey, I can help you with that. So since that kind of moment, I've kind of identified more as a business anthropologist. So a lot of the work I've done around is like understanding, who is our customer, what are the market opportunities, as well as, at the Kauffman Foundation, a lot of my work has been around our audience because we don't have really customers as a foundation that gives out grants, really understanding our, the relationships we have with people who consume the media that we put out.
Got it.
So.
Yeah, great. And so the title of your panel is Rework Your Teamwork, Techniques for Leaders and Team Members. So you want to just give everybody a little overview on that?
Yeah, so I think anthropologists get a bad rap as not being great team members. There's sort of that myth of the lone anthropologist out in the field. But when it comes down to actual practice in terms of how we do things, I think this workshop has stuff for folks that work in academia as well as those that work in practice, because working in groups is pretty essential to any workplace. So I really want to kind of break down what might feel like obvious stuff about working in teams, but really make it clear and give people applicable tools to apply. And this is a workshop for students, instructors, as well as practitioners. I'm hoping there's something that everybody can take away. And I think there's a lot of tips that will help folks that, are kind of put in the position of a leader on a team, but also how to be a good participant on a team, because, it is a team effort when you're participating on a team.
Sure. And so what led you to this topic? Is there any sort of experiences you had, while you're working that really made you interested?
Yeah. So I think it was like really working in that startup space at my sidewalk where you have that sort of collaborative experience. Before then I'd been used to being kind of individual contributor and kind of like being in my lane. But also a lot of volunteer work I've done where you have like sort of this added layer of motivating people that aren't getting paid. So those are kind of some of the areas where I've, had to collaborate quite a bit with other folks. And at the Kauffman Foundation, we have like all types of teams. So we love meetings. So really knowing how to facilitate meetings is something that we focused a lot in terms of, training at the Kauffman Foundation. So I've gone through, I don't know how many like how to facilitate meetings trainings. And I think there's a lot of learnings that I've gotten from that that we can apply to, just leading an actual project team. And one of the aspects of my role at the Kauffman Foundation is project management. which obviously there's a lot of applications between project management and leading teams.
So, you mentioned that this is a little bit for both educators as well as, those who want to practice. And so just tell me, how do you see this, fitting into education going forward?
Oh, teamwork in education? Yeah, I think when it comes to developing curriculum that's going to prepare students for the workplace, I think, while you might get grumbles from students when you say it's a group project, I think that's like where the real world application comes in, and learning how to work together towards a shared goal. And I think that this type of workshop can give people maybe some tools that, like, even if you're a student, the next time you have a team project, how do you actually work together rather than having that sort of, nightmare experience usually where one person does all of the work and everyone else kind of just, nods along. So how do you create like a real participatory collaborative experience? And this is something that anybody in any workplace is probably going to have to participate in at some point.
Sure. Now, a little difference from the academic environment to the work environment would be that, say, like, an anthropology student is likely going to be working with other anthropology students, at least in anthropology courses, on a group project. Whereas then we get in the field, and depending on your industry, I'm working with engineers and other designers, and so my point is basically the makeup of teams in the work environment could look a little bit different than when you're studying in your core subject at the university. And so how do you see sort of bridging that gap?
Yeah, I think it's really using your anthropological skill set in terms of learning how to work with other people and recognize sort of like those cultural patterns in terms of practices and, the language that people use. You have to kind of embed yourself. So like, for example, in my current work, I'm the only anthropologist there. I work with a data analyst as well as 2 web designers. Like, those are the people that I collaborate with most frequently. But a lot of times we're focused together on operation stuff. So it is kind of, building that shared language as well as learning to respect and celebrate each other's strengths. I think is a really important aspect of that.
Great. And so I appreciate you've already said a fair amount about the workshop, but if you were going to summarize it in just like very brief, what is the takeaway? What should everybody expect?
I think you should be ready to expect like leaving with like actual tools that like the next time you're ready to like do a project that you can sit and like apply and think through consciously how you're developing your team and how you're leading your team and how you're keeping everybody engaged. I want this to be really like hands-on and thinking about how do we sort of set up the architecture structures that we need to have a successful team.
Sounds very useful, very practical. So for those who won't be able to make it to Fordham to attend in person in New York City, where could people find you if they were just interested in the topic?
I think LinkedIn would probably be the best sort of place to reach out to me. Jennifer Studebaker at LinkedIn. And I'm happy to reply to messages. Always, I keep an eye on that. So
Sounds great. Well, Jennifer, thanks for spending the time today. Good luck with your workshop.
thank you.
Okay.